help me out here. Should we go over Tepache right now? I think we should, because Tepache is pretty much the most amazing thing ever. This is the pineapple. You're welcome. This is what you paid the big bucks for. I'm going to tell you that's pineapple. This fruit you think is like this dangerous outside exterior that needs to go in the compost or the garbage actually can be used for good. So we're going to make delicious fermented soda using only the exterior of the pineapple, and then we're going to be able to eat the actual pineapple. So usually I cut fruit up ahead, but it was a busy day, so you get to watch me manhandle this thing. So I'm just crudely taking off the exterior. So now I have, I left a little chunk on there because I'm not being too careful, but I have the outside of the peel that I would normally throw away. And I'm going to just stick this right in to a jar. And this is basically the same process as kvass. And Tepache comes from Mexico. It's, I think, thought of as a beer there. They typically let it ferment a little longer than what I'm going to recommend, and then it gets somewhat alcoholic. So if you want to avoid the alcohol, just go shorter time. If you want to experiment with making your own beer out of the pineapple rind, then do that too. So traditionally, this is made with piloncillo, which is like a Mexican brown sugar. It's like, what is it? Brown cane sugar, right? They come in these little triangles. This one's Goya. I got it from Amazon. There's other ones that I usually find like in the if you have a Mexican section of the grocery store where they have the spices in little bags, they'll have these in little bags too. This is a half a cup, which is great because that's what you want anyway. So if you're going to use this, if you're going to do the conventional way of making Tepache, the Mexican style, you're going to melt this down in some water, and then you got to let it cool or mix it with cold water to get the amount of water you want, and then that's what you're going to use for your sugar in here. This just has to be melted before you use it. And you don't want to add that liquid while it's hot because that'll ruin your bacteria, right? And then you're going to do 8 cups of water just like we did for the last one. But I'm too lazy to melt that right now while we're talking. So I'm just going to use regular sugar. And it's good. I think it's a little better. It gives it like a more like molasses flavor and a little darker color when you use the piloncillo. But it's not necessary. You can use regular sugar if that's what you have. So that's what we're going to do. We're going to use a half a cup of sugar. So that seems like a lot, but that's what we did last time. It's just so sweet because it's the pineapple, but you know what happens? It just gets eaten by this yeast. It's going to be really active and bubbly, and it's not going to be as sweet. It's like a really lighter flavor than you're expecting from something that's pineapple is really overbearing normally. But this Tepache turns out really a lot like a beer. So like I say with most things, just use whatever sugar you want. They also in Mexico will often use warm spices, like put a cinnamon stick in there or an anise pod, or I don't know, like I think that's it. Maybe you could do nutmeg, or you could put a clove or 2 in there. It makes it really, it's strong, and my kids and Chud doesn't like it as much with that in there. And then I typically won't use those warm spices until the fall comes around because I'm trying to use cooling herbs and spices right now. So I might play around with that again in the fall. So I think, yeah, I have the star anise and cinnamon stick as optional on the recipe that I did. So again, half a gallon or 8 cups of water. And same, I'm just going to stir it really good. This is a little harder to stir because it's bigger chunks, but it'll get easier because it'll start to soften. So I'm just going to try to make sure that the sugar has a chance to dissolve in the water. Okay, so just the same as a kvass, right? This is basically the same process. Sugar, fruit, water, done for now. 3 times a day, you're going to stir it. You're going to write your date and time. You're going to leave it for the same length of time. 3 to 5 days, 2 to 5 days in the summer. But again, watch the jar, not the clock. Pay attention to those signs. Listen, smell, feel, taste it. Taste it. You want it to smell fruity, but not quite like wine yet. It's like It already smells fruity, but like tomorrow you're gonna be like, oh, that's what she made. It's a sharp knife and a cutting board, a strainer, and a couple of glass jars and some coffee filters and rubber bands, right? Sugar, fruit, water, you're done. I really recommend starting with those if you haven't done fermentation before, or playing with those if you have done kombucha before, but you think it's kind of a hassle. You're gonna strain it into bottles and use that tester bottle. You're gonna leave it, typically it's gonna be on your counter for 1 to 3 days. Kombucha can be longer, closer to 7, but your tepache and kvass are so high in sugar from those fruits, and they're just really going that usually it's like a day or 2, 3 in the winter, 1 in the summertime, sometimes even just 12 hours. But yeah, second bottling, leave it for a little while, watch that plastic bottle, and then you move it to your fridge. Fridge will slow down or stop the fermentation, and then you can enjoy it after it's cold.
So how is tepache different from kvass?
So the only difference is that I'm not using the fruit I'm using the peel, specifically called tepache because it's a traditional Mexican beer. So that's really the only, it's basically the same thing. It's the same process, it's the same fundamentals.